All right, so welcome, guys. This is the Ultimate Foreclosure Formula Supergroup, and I'm Darlene Coquerel, Queen of Foreclosures. I have been in the business over 30 years now, and for those of you just getting started, it took a year for me to get my first deal done, and I couldn't get my offers accepted. I was too nervous. I didn't know enough. I had to keep over analyzing before I would pull the trigger. And then by the time I pulled the trigger, I'd get the property wouldn't be available. It's amazing how the business cycles, and so we are in a cycle now that I have seen so many times in my career in real estate. So I started out investing in real estate, and then a few years later, 1994, I got licensed as a real estate agent. And I only did that for myself as a real estate investor. I wasn't really trying to be a real estate agent to go work with people as their agent. But life changes, things happen. And by the end of 1999, I found myself being a single mom. And for the first time, I was out there looking for a job to go work for someone else. So I ended up working for a RE/MAX agent who was, she was a seasoned RE/MAX agent working retail residential, meaning helping families buy and sell their houses. And so I spent 2.5 years with her, and I learned so much. My time with her, it was just me, I was her only assistant, and she became the number 3 RE/MAX agent in the state of Georgia. My first year with her, the second year with her, she became number 1. So that was an amazing training that I got. It was part-time and I didn't make a whole lot of money, but man, that was the best education I got in the traditional side of real estate. And I think that plus what I've learned in the real estate investing side has made me the person I am today, has made me the hybrid. And when I talk to wholesalers, wholesalers leave deals on the table. And then when I talk to agents, real estate agents leave deals on the table. And so the nice thing about what I do is I am trained and experienced now that I have multiple exit strategies. So when investors ask me, what's my favorite area? What's the best area to invest in real estate? What's the best state? What's the best city? Things like that. To me, it's not even that. It's learning how to speak to the homeowners, learning how to get motivated sellers talking and find out. If you've listened to me long enough, my favorite question up front is, what's your situation? Why are you selling? And then my second question is, what do you hope to have happen? So I have spent most of my 30 years in the foreclosure realm. I've done some other things, but most of what I do, my marketing and my model is based all around foreclosures. So what you have to understand is, where's the market right now and what stage of foreclosure is actually working. So there's stage 1, which is pre-foreclosure. In some states, you'll hear NODs, which is notice of default. If you buy a list, an NOD list, which is notice of default, that means the mortgage is in default. If you deal with notice of default, you're dealing with pre-foreclosures. Short sales, when you deal with short sales, you're dealing with pre-foreclosures. Subject to or seller finance or cash, all of those are strategies when you're dealing with pre-foreclosures. So pre-foreclosures is a good, it's always good, no matter what the market is. If you market to pre-foreclosures, if you find out what the laws are in your state, as a matter of fact, I'm going to give you guys here support at darbuyshouses.com. If you shoot me an email and talk to me about your state, we could get on a one-on-one if you're interested. I do 50-minute with investors, just one-on-one consultations on Zoom, just like this. And it's free, doesn't cost you anything. But if you go to my website and you'll click on investor resources and then click on free consultation. And then I do 2 different ones. There's the homeowner, there's the investor. You want to go to the free consultation and click on investor. And what we'll do is we'll get on Zoom, and then I'll pull up on the internet and I'll show you, if you don't know the laws in your state for foreclosures, I'll pull your state specifically and we'll look at it, and I'll show you how there's so many free ways to go out there and find the pre-foreclosure list for starters. Also, pre-foreclosure leads to stage 2, which is actually foreclosure. Now, every state is divided into 2 buckets. In foreclosure, the law in your state is either a judicial law or a non-judicial law. So, for example, in Texas, it's a non-judicial law. In Georgia, it's a non-judicial law. In Tennessee, it's a non-judicial law. Florida, it's judicial. North Carolina, it's judicial. New Jersey, it's judicial. So depending on whether you're judicial or non-judicial, what happens in a judicial state when the loan is in default, in order for the lender to get that non-performing asset back, in order for them to get possession of the house, they have to start a lawsuit and they have to sue the borrower to get their house, to get the house back. And of course, the borrower has the right to bring the loan current and keep on paying it and keep the house. If they don't bring the loan current, this lawsuit goes in front of the judge. And so for the foreclosure process in stage 2, in a judicial state, you're inside the courtroom and you're in front of the judge. And the judge says, does anybody have, what it takes to stop this foreclosure? In other words, is the borrower here to reinstate that loan and bring it back on track? And if not, then they'll go forward with an auction inside the courthouse. In non-judicial states, such as Texas, Georgia, the property is advertised for 4 consecutive weeks in the legal newspaper of the county that the property is located in. And that's so that the owner has the right, once again, the borrower has the right to bring the loan current and keep the property. If they cannot do that, then here, for example, the legal hours are from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then a foreclosing attorney, a trustee, an auctioneer auctions off the property to the highest bidder. And these are not what we call absolute auctions. These usually have a reserve. And so the lender, they can start the bid low, but the reserve bid may be anywhere from 50 to 100 to 150,000 higher than the opening bid. And the lender is expecting the bid to go higher than their reserve in order for the property to be sold to a third party on the steps in that particular case. If it doesn't happen, then the property goes into stage 3. That's legal closure right there. The foreclosure process gives legal closure, and the lender now becomes the owner of the property. Prior to legal closure, they are only the mortgage holder. They're only the lender on the property. Now they become the owner. Once they become the owner, now the property goes into stage 3, which is the Reo stage. It's called real estate owned, bank owned properties. So that's stage 3. So back to, I wanted to give that just basic explanation so we can go back to what state are we in right now? What's the state of condition as far as foreclosures go? One, we're seeing an all-time low in the number of foreclosures because of the pandemic. So in Georgia, I buy the Georgia list, the entire state of Georgia every month, and have done that for years. And we're at an all-time low from April 2020 until the end of 2021. Every month the list comes out, and this month we're just over 500. Last month, for the first time since the announcement of the pandemic, for the first time, we've had over 700 properties. Well, not too much over 700, but we've had over 700 properties advertised for foreclosure. Now, it's another story. It may be advertised for foreclosure, but they don't all get foreclosed. And that's where we come in as real estate investors. You have to learn more and more about this process. As a matter of fact, I say somewhere between 65 and 70% of the properties that are advertised for foreclosure do not get foreclosed that month. They come around again and again and again. Some things that can stop or postpone the foreclosure. Number one, a bankruptcy. If the borrower files bankruptcy, it's called stay the foreclosure, that could postpone the foreclosure. And a borrower could do that 2 times in a year or 2 years to postpone that foreclosure. The other way to postpone a foreclosure is the borrower can call the lender and have a workout program, a forbearance program, a loan modification program. You hear all these different phrases or words that are used to say what could happen. And we've seen so much leniency right now. In the last 2 years, we've seen the lenders be extremely lenient. Number one, the government has stepped in and has forced forbearance programs. If a borrower, all they had to do is call their lender. If they live in the house, they call their lender and they say, I have been affected by COVID. And then they can be put into a forbearance program. That forbearance program could have lasted as long as 18 months, 20 months. I've seen 20, 22, 24 months. So most of the properties in forbearance have now come out or are coming out of forbearance. The last of them are coming out of forbearance in the next 30, 60, 90 days. And what that means is if they don't start making their payments on time, if they don't communicate with their lender and make an arrangement as to how they come out of their forbearance, then those will go right into the default. They will go right down the path of default and into the foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, post-foreclosure process. So that's kind of where we are right now. Is December traditionally has lower number of foreclosures just because a lot of the lenders back off during the holidays. So we went from 700 and some in Georgia last month to 500 and some in December leading up to the January 4th foreclosure because of the holidays. So I say in January, February, March, we're going to start seeing the beginning of lenders starting to have foreclosure starts, have foreclosure announcements starting that they have not been doing it for almost 2 years. So in the next 90 days, we're going to see the beginning of that opening up. So all that to say, for the last couple of years, working foreclosures in stage 2 didn't make much sense. There was not enough inventory coming to the foreclosure auction. And the inventory that was coming, there were so many buyers, so many cash buyers that the competition was too high. So it did not make sense to buy in stage 2. Some of those properties in stage 2 went back to the lender and came out in stage 3. There's a similar problem in stage 3 with REOs, again, bank-owned properties. With REOs, once again, the inventory is so low, there's so much competition that they're selling too much. It doesn't make sense for us as individual investors, whether you're doing 1, 2 in 2022, if you want to do 1 deal, 10 deals, 50 deals. It's kind of tough in most of our markets to be competitive when it's in the foreclosure stage, stage 2, or in the post foreclosure stage, stage 3. But you just have to stay with it. Right now, this is the time of the year that a lot of lenders will drop their expectation so that they've been listing and trying to auction off REOs for the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, but it wasn't hitting their reserve price. So they kept bringing it back to auction over and over. That's the stage 3 auction, online auctions. So when you understand things about real estate, you understand the time of year, the time of the month dictates how much that property may be able to be bought for. So when it comes to foreclosures, that's what you're looking for. In my opinion, when I watched how the hedge funds play the game, when I watched how lenders with non-performing assets play the game, you're looking at the end of a quarter. We've got 4 quarters in the year, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. At the end of a quarter, sometimes they're going to say, I want to get these off my books before the end of this quarter, or I don't want this much debt. I don't want to lose this much money by selling it less than my reserve, so I push it into the next quarter. And then the fourth quarter, December 31st, December 31st represents a big line in the sand for a lot of lenders and mortgage companies. So now's a good time to get on the online auctions and start looking at properties. We're seeing properties that we've been bidding on all year, and they're still coming back out and they still haven't sold them. But I suspect if that we could potentially get an offer accepted. So what you have to do is you have to learn, again, how to find the lists. So one thing, you can go to Zillow. Zillow offers you a free way to find pre-foreclosures. When you go into Zillow, you create yourself a free account and you start looking up the foreclosures. Another way is to go to auction.com. Most of the major metropolitan areas, auction.com has a lot of properties that they're auctioning off. So when you go to auction.com, you want to put in your state, you want to look at your, their auction calendar. In some cases, they'll show you live auctions. Live auctions are at the courthouse auctions. So whether it's judicial or non-judicial, the live auction is stage 2. The online auctions are stage 3. So there's other things you have to worry about too. And I'll break that down here in a minute. If I'm buying properties in stage 1, which is pre-foreclosure, then I have to really do a good title search before I get to the closing table, because the title, whatever is on that title, if I'm purchasing that property as a pre-foreclosure and I'm not expecting the seller to satisfy any title problems, I'm going to do that, then I have to know what I'm getting myself into. For example, there may be IRS liens. There may be, municipalities such as, the HOA or the county or taxes, property taxes. There may be personal liens. Like, for example, a car loan, there may be a judgment. If they got a car repossessed, there may be a judgment attached to the title. And so in order to convey clear title, or in order for me to buy a property, for you to buy a property with a clear title, somebody has to pay that judgment or lien off. So in pre-foreclosure, you have to have a good team to know how to do your research on title. So in Georgia, we have something called gsccca.org, and that's Georgia State, corporate way to go in there. And if I had the deed book and page, I could do a title search. Even with 30 years in the business, that's not my forte. So I don't rely on my own skills to do my title searches. I look for a title examiner. And depending on your state, here in Georgia, we are an attorney state. If you're a title state versus an attorney state, you're going to go directly to a title company and say, hey, I'm looking for a title examiner just to do a pre-purchase preliminary title search for me. In order to close, you're going to close at the title company, or you're going to close at the closing attorney's office, and you're going to do a full title search at that point. When I get a preliminary title search done, it's called I call it a one owner search. So I look at it this way. If there's a mortgage on that property, in order for the lender to have been confident and comfortable doing a mortgage, they would have had a complete title search done. So that title has been brought to the closing table as a clear title when that borrower bought the property. You follow me? And then now I'm looking for a one owner search. I want to see only from their closing when they purchased the property all the way through the day of my closing when I purchased the property. That's my preliminary title search that I'm looking for. So if you're buying in stage 1 or in stage 2, you're going to have that preliminary title search completed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to, in anything attached to that title, somebody has to satisfy it. You or the seller have to satisfy it. Keep in mind, pre-foreclosures, they're losing the roof over their heads, right? So the chance of them satisfying any large amount of lien or judgment is slim. So you got to count that cost. So you got to know that before you go way down that path right, of trying to close on that one. So I have to worry about the title in stage 1 and in stage 2 of foreclosures. In stage 3, that title, in order for me to purchase that property, I'm telling, my contract says that the seller has to convey clear title. And 100% of the time when you buy properties, if you're closing on your properties to buy them, you want to get an owner's title insurance policy, because that protects you against any flaws or any mistakes that might have been done. That title company is on the hook, that closing attorney is on the hook, and that's what you want. And it only shows itself, the problem only shows itself when you go to sell the property. I've done a couple way back in the day, and it's not fun to buy a property that had a title problem, and you have to figure out how to fix it to get it sold. So when you buy pre-foreclosures, if there are title problems, you have to think about your exit strategy. If you're trying to wholesale, those title problems have to be fixed before you wholesale that property. I can buy a property with a title problem and keep it for the rest of my life, and it doesn't matter. Some title problems, it doesn't matter. You know, it just matters when I go to try to sell it to convey clear title. So these are some of the gotchas. These are some of the traps you have to be careful of. And when you're brand new in the business, you know, that's where you have to really make sure you're getting the training that you want. You know, this REI USA Facebook group is a great place to bring problems, to bring questions, if you're out there. So there's that. In wholesaling, I'm going to talk about wholesaling. And in wholesaling, you know, there's so many different ways when you're dealing with foreclosures. You cannot take a short sale and wholesale it, because you cannot change the buyer. So, you know, there are investors that create these LLCs, and then they put their wholesale buyer into the LLC as a new member. You know, in some cases, I've seen investors get away with that. But for the most part, in terms of wholesaling, unless you're closing on it like me, I got a wholesale deal down in Columbus, Georgia, and I purchased it and I closed on it. And now I'm going to wholesale it. But I spent some money to buy it. And then and I used hard money. I used a hard money loan. So it cost me money to close on it. And I'm going to do a little bit of work. I call it prehabbing. I'm going to do a little bit of work, such as doing a clean out, trash out. There's a roof repair I want to take care of. And outside of that, it's ready to go back out there. And I'll make somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 on that property as a wholesale deal. We took another pre-foreclosure. We closed it a few months ago. No, actually, it wasn't even a few months ago. We've been working on it for months. And we stopped the foreclosure, and we just closed on it right before the holiday, right before Christmas. And I probably spent, by the time I'm done, I'm probably going to be around $8,000 in my prehab. And we should make at least $25,000 on a wholesale deal. I got a private loan on that one. So for the money that we purchased it in pre-foreclosure. We gave the owner $1,000. And then we bought it for the balance on his loan. And it was in pretty bad shape, pretty ugly shape, just cosmetically bad. Wasn't really more than that. But putting it back out there, we just put it on the market. We put it on the market last Thursday, and today's Tuesday. Right? We put it on the market last Thursday night and have 5 offers already. Put it on the market for $185, and our highest offer is $200,000 cash buyer. So fingers crossed, they'll get to the inspection tomorrow and everything will be good, and we'll sell that property 3 weeks from now. And that's a wholesale deal. So a lot of my wholesale deals, just because it's a lower, it costs me money, but I can wholesale it so much better this way and for more money this way. But that's me, 30 years in the business. I'm a hybrid as a real estate investor and real estate broker. And I know how to put all this stuff together. There's so many moving parts, and there's so many factors. Like, for example, this property has no history in the last 4 or 5 years on MLS. So for me to go out there and wholesale it in a strong market like now, I know that was a good plan for me. And if I have to do the full rehab, I can, but I'm probably only going to make 10,000 more, and it's going to cost me 2 or 3 more months and a little bit more risk to do the full rehab and sell it to somebody after in move-in condition. So back to pre-foreclosures and wholesaling, there's the subject to, which is basically taking title to the property, but leaving the loan in the original borrower's name. Remember, subject to only happens in as foreclosures go, it only happens in pre-foreclosure. Doesn't happen in stage 2, doesn't happen in stage 3, only in pre-foreclosure. Now you can buy other properties subject to. So talking about wholesaling and talking about pre-foreclosures, one idea is to put that property under contract as a subject to deal. And again, if you have questions about that, about what that means, just type in the chat box for me. So subject to, we're going to put it up under contract. Our contract says that we are paying approximately the sales price for that contract. And our approximate price is, back to the beginning, what's the question I'm asking the homeowner? Mrs. Jones, what's your situation? Tell me what happened. Or what's your situation? Why are you selling? She said, I'm in pre-foreclosure. I just don't want the foreclosure on my record. I just want to walk away. So if we could stop the foreclosure, would you be willing to walk away for what you owe on it? She said, well, I need some help. I need money to move and I need a security deposit. So if we can help you move, we have a field services team. If we can help you move, we can get a truck, we can get a couple guys, we can help you pack. Anything you don't want, you leave it behind, we'll take care of it. Do you have a place to go? Do you know when you're going? Do you know where? And how much do you need to get into that place? So once we figure all that out, and then we come back full circle and say, so if we can stop the foreclosure, what we do is we'll go ahead and bring that loan current on your behalf. So we'll pay the money to bring the loan current, but we need to call your lender together. And so once we find that out, we find out all the money that's needed in that deal. And we do call the lender together and we ask, what's the foreclosure date? How much is the reinstatement amount? How much is the payoff amount? So we know exactly what we're basically inheriting in the subject to mortgage, because subject to means it's subject to the mortgage that's on the property. So if she owes $86,000 and it costs $5,000 to bring it current, I need the $5,000 and then I'm going to start paying the monthly payments. If I put that property under contract, because I'm trying to wholesale and because it's a pre-foreclosure, the clock is ticking fast. And so now I have to be ready to find a buyer who can give me all of that plus my wholesale fee. So when I wholesale pre-foreclosures, a lot of times I close on them first because I can make much more money by closing on them. I might bring the loan current. I may take the property subject to. If it needs a lot of work, then I may wholesale it. Now, it's better to keep your subject to deals, but if you're going to wholesale, those are good. Pre-foreclosures are good. It's a good group of properties to work towards wholesaling. And then you just have to know how to structure your contract properly. And so in this particular case, maybe you're getting $5,000 or $10,000 wholesale fee. You could do a double closing or you could do it as an assignment. And again, in those particular cases, because you're not planning to come out of pocket with your own money, in that case, then you want to make it fast. You're probably only going to get a smaller amount in a wholesale fee. Let's see what else. So when it comes to buying pre-foreclosures, I just want you to write this down. Never, all capital letters, never let the homeowner stay in the house after closing. Never let the homeowner stay in the house after closing. Now, there's exception to every rule. And unfortunately, my team says, Darlene, I think you live by exception, not the rule. And I hate to say that, this business doesn't do itself. It takes amazing effort to make this business work. And I do have a lot of exceptions. There have been times that I've allowed the homeowner to stay in the house. But when it comes to subject to, depending on your state laws, if that homeowner is savvy enough and they decide they don't want to get out after you close, you may have a very difficult time legally gaining possession of that property. So I see a few more people have joined us. Say hey in the chat box. Tell me where you are, what city, what state. We're just talking about foreclosures. We're talking about pretty much the state of the times right now, and understanding which stage of foreclosure you should focus on. Tell me who you guys are, what state you're in, and if you've done any foreclosures. Have you done pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, or post-foreclosure? One of the things I mentioned earlier was getting on a one-on-one call with me, and you can do that. I'm going to put here, give me a second, Ultimate Foreclosure. UltimateForeclosureFormula.com, and I think FreeCon. Try that and see if that gets you. Try it like that and see if that gets you right to the free consultation. That'll be a 50-minute one-on-one on Zoom, and we could talk through your business. We could talk about, hey, Rebecca in Wyoming. We could talk about your state laws as far as foreclosures go. There are ways to find free leads in foreclosure in each state. So that's one thing that, I'll be able to help you guys with. The main thing when it comes to a market like we're in right now, and that market is, we have a shortage of inventory. So most of our areas, we still have a shortage of inventory. We're not going to see the foreclosure. We're not going to see the lenders starting to foreclose in large numbers for another, 3 to 6 months. I'm expecting 9 months from now. Hey, Michael in Georgia, that's great. I'm here in Atlanta too, Michael. We have a low number of foreclosures out there. So in looking at REOs, which are bank-owned properties in stage 3, it's going to take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months before that inventory builds up. But what I want you to do in April 9th, I'm going to do a Driving for Dollars live out in the field here in Atlanta, Georgia, Stone Mountain, Georgia, actually. We're going to do Driving for Dollars. And my approach to Driving for Dollars is very different than everybody else. And I talk about saturating your market and claiming your territory. Foreclosures is my mainstay, but when you're looking at territory, I can see from doing foreclosures for so long, I can see the same neighborhoods come up month after month after month. So I want you to be proactive, and I want you to have a global exposure. I want you to have global presence. So when it comes to marketing, some investors like to do outbound cold calling. Some people like to do direct mail and let the phone calls come in. Some people like to go door knocking, put flyers out, do text messaging, do social media advertising, do email blasts, things like that. I want you, when you figure out an address that you want to target, if you find a distressed property, and I start with my pre-foreclosure list. So if I take 5 addresses in pre-foreclosure in one zip code, I'm gonna optimize a route, and I'm going to go drive those 5 houses, but I'm going to spend 3 to 5 hours driving those houses. I want to go drive those houses, but I want to put flyers out in that whole neighborhood. The flyers that say Dar buys houses, right? Dar stops foreclosures, whatever it is. I'm not just targeting that house in foreclosure. I'm targeting 3 houses to the right, 3 houses to the left, 5 houses across the street. No, in theory, right? Depending on the type of neighborhood, you may be in an area that they're really spread out. And so you have to drive from each mailbox. Now, you can't legally put anything inside the mailbox unless you have a stamp on it, but you can put it under the mailbox. You can tack it to the mailbox pole. You could take it up and put it on the driveway, up on the porch, on the front door, things like that. but that's one thing we do is, we just get the word out there. Bandit signs. You could Google what's a bandit sign. We buy house bandit signs, or go to postcardmania.com, and they have a sample package. You can ask them to mail you a sample package for real estate, and you'll see all these we buy house. You want to go out there and you want to go to vistaprints.com and get some business cards made that say Dar buys houses, Michelle buys houses. Get some business cards made and let people know what you do. I used to sell encyclopedias back in the day for 5 years back in the 80s. And I learned amazing sales, marketing, and negotiating techniques. And they say, follow your money. So one of the things you want to do, I say it's very simple to get in this business and get started, right? The simple thing in this business is go get 250 business cards made. And I say 250 because I want you to get rid of them. You can go make 1,000, but if they sit in your office and you never get rid of them, it was a waste of money. If you get 250 made and you get rid of them, by all means, go get another 250. But the goal is to get 250 business cards made, get your phones ringing, get 250 business cards made, make a very simple flyer that says, I buy houses, any condition, any area, close fast, call me, right? The problem is not that you don't have the money. The problem is you're not talking to enough people. So in order to talk to enough people, you got to get out there. So when we say follow the money, you go to a restaurant, be a good tipper. And if you're a good tipper, put your business card and just say, hey, do you know anybody who needs to sell a house in the next 30 days? We give out $500, gift certificates or $500 Visa cards. If you can lead me to somebody who needs to sell a house that we can buy. Follow your money. When you get gas in your car, don't pay at the pump, go inside. And then say the same thing. Do you know anybody who needs to sell a house? Would you like a side hustle? How would you like to make $500 once a month? Or could you use some extra money? Help me help you. Do you know anybody? Do you know of any vacant houses? Do you know of any abandoned houses? That's what you want to do, is you want to start looking for abandoned houses. Now, what goes along with that, again, with REI USA, you guys go out there and just keep listening to these videos over and over. There are so many good teachers here teaching you how to do the seller financing, teaching how to take control of a property and do a sandwich lease, where you could put it under contract to lease it and turn around and lease it to somebody else, and you make $400 in the middle. But the main thing is to go out there and let people know that you're buying houses, and then know how to structure a contract. So that's kind of, I'm the founder of the Ultimate Foreclosure Formula. And, I've known Stacy for a long time, and I love being on REI USA. We've got a lot of free materials. You can go on my website and check it out. But you've got to get out there, right? You've got to get out there. That's the key. If you've got any questions or comments specific to foreclosures, let me know what they are. I'm talking about which stage of foreclosure makes sense right now when we're at an all-time low in the number of foreclosures. So pre-foreclosure is the way to go, in my opinion. It's not my favorite stage to deal business in. I don't like doing pre-foreclosures because it's one by one by one. We bought at the steps in several states, spent millions and millions of dollars buying at the steps. But now's not the time to buy at the steps because there's not enough inventory. People are paying too much money. There are too many cash buyers. So I have to stay in the pre-foreclosure realm. The last stage is REOs. Same thing with REOs. I'm bidding over and over and over on the same properties and still can't win the bid. So you just saturate your market by adding some extra driving around, getting to know your market, those kind of things. The other thing is take, again, whatever city or zip codes that you're targeting, I want you to start looking at these websites. And these websites will help you on, start looking at foreclosures in your area. One, of course, Zillow is one of them. Zillow, you can actually go up there and look at buy properties, and you could narrow it down to foreclosures. So that's one thing to look at in Zillow. The other one is auction.com. When you look at auction.com, put in your area, put in your zip code, put in your city, look at their auction calendar, and you'll start seeing properties in their area. Now, to bid on auction.com, you have to have a credit card that you can freeze. They're going to freeze, like when you go book a hotel. The hotel puts a freeze for a certain amount of money. When you go on auction.com, they put a freeze of $2,500. That's not your earnest money. It's just a freeze until that auction is over. But I bid all the time on auction.com. Another one, and I'm going to type this one in. It is HUDhomestore.com. All the FHA loans that get foreclosed and they go back to the lender. So what happens is FHA goes through pre-foreclosure. I'm going to try to buy them first. If I can't stop the foreclosure, it goes to the foreclosure, and it doesn't make the reserve. So it goes back to the lender, and then then the lender gets paid off by HUD. So there's a lender like Wells Fargo or Mr. Cooper or Carrington Mortgage, right? They did FHA loans, and then they foreclosed on it. And after they foreclose on it and they take it back because nobody bid high enough, they take it back, and then the Department of HUD pays them, and then it becomes a HUD home. It's a HUD REO. My very first property ever, took me a year to buy my first house. My very first property was a HUD foreclosure. It was a duplex in Lawrenceville, Georgia. So go to HUDhomestore.com. You got to mark these on your calendar. So what we're talking about is 2022. What am I going to do better in 2022 than I did in 2021 when it comes to real estate, right? So, and I'm focusing on just mostly on the foreclosure side of it. So go to HUD Home Store, go to auction.com, go to Zillow. Those are your main ones, but you're going to have to watch HUD Home Store every week because there's such little inventory. It's going to take about the next 90 days before the foreclosure pipeline starts to open up. The forbearance, the moratoriums are just ending, right? We still have another 60 to 90 days before the forbearance completely ends. Most of them have ended, but some have not. So in the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to start seeing the media talk about the number of foreclosures that are starting to hit the market. But I'm saying within 6 months, we're really going to see foreclosures starting to hit the market. My prediction has been, even prior to pandemic, my prediction has been 2023, 24, 25, 26. That's the repeat that we're going to see from 2008 to 2012. In 2010 in Georgia, 2010, 11, we had over 200,000 foreclosures in 1 year. This year in 2021, we haven't even had 10,000 foreclosures. So from 2010 till now, let's call it a decade, it went from 200,000 down to 10. Let me go backwards. From 2010 backwards to 2000. In the year 2000, we had about 20,000 foreclosures. In the year 2000, we had about 20,000 foreclosures in Georgia. And it took a decade to climb up to 200,000. And then it took a decade to climb off the chart at the bottom of the chart. Again, it's because of the pandemic, less than 10,000. So in 2022, I think we're going to have, and I'm going to use Georgia because I do Georgia in my sleep. And I buy the whole state foreclosure list every month. So in 2022, I think we're going to have somewhere between 10,000 and 18,000 foreclosures. This year we had less than 10. Last year we had maybe over 10. So we're going to have between 10 and 15 in 22. And then by the time we get to 2023, we're going to be up to 25,000 foreclosures for the year, and it'll keep climbing for at least till 2026. I can't predict past that. I don't know if it's another nuclear bomb, the world explodes. I don't know what happens. But so when that comes out, I switch my model. I switch my emphasis on my model. Instead of primarily focusing on pre-foreclosures, I go back to focusing buying at the steps, at the foreclosure auction, buying REOs. But in the meantime, I'm still saturating my market. I'm still watching that inventory. I'm still bidding on HUD foreclosures, VA foreclosures, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all these REOs. I'm still trying to bid on those. So I'm going to give you some websites in the chat box right now, right? So you've got auction.com. By the way, do you know how to save the chat box? If you go down and if you know how to type in the chat box, you should have three dots, and then click on save chat, right? In case you want to save everything I'm typing in here. So auction.com, HUD Home Store, homesteps.com. That's these are Freddie Mac. You guys know what Freddie Mac is? These are all insured loans. So when we talk about the moratorium, there was a moratorium on all of the insured loans. The lenders were not allowed to foreclose. So you know what happens, right? When you do that, watch my cheeks, right? It builds up. And so all of those for the last 2 years that were not allowed to foreclose are going to start foreclosing. And guess what? The folks who are currently losing their house or losing their jobs and whatever they're doing out there in life, and they're going to lose their house, those will be added. And so that's where I see, you know, the next 23, 4, 5, 6, the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to start seeing that swell up, the foreclosure tsunami. So homesteads.com is Freddie Mac, homepath.com. Those are Fannie Mae foreclosures. You know what, the VA foreclosures, I haven't looked at that site in a long time. I can't figure out what that site really is. And then there is Hudson and Marshall. These are all the ones that I know they do online foreclosures. And what I want you to do, somewhere along the way, you should be going to somebody's training that talks about goal setting. And so my goal setting for real estate is, what is my lifestyle goal? I've learned that my happy place is sunshine, palm trees, and water, right? So my goal is to live that lifestyle, live the laptop lifestyle, to do real estate from anywhere. I may focus on Georgia or New Jersey or Florida or, you know, wherever I'm focusing, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, it doesn't matter where I'm focusing, but I should be able to do it from anywhere, right? So as a matter of fact, I think that the meeting right after this one talks about long distance investing. You definitely want to get back on or stay on for that one. Anyway, my goal setting goes back to, what is my lifestyle plan? What do I want my lifestyle? If these were my last 5 years in life, what do I want to do in these 5 years? What do I want to leave behind? What do I want people to remember about me? And what lifestyle do I want to live on purpose? And so that's where you start. That's your why. And then you go backwards. So part of that means I need some passive income. You know, I need at least $5,000 a month passive income. So what am I going to do in real estate to create that passive income? So I want to buy some seller finance deals. I want to buy some subject to deals, and I want to do some sandwich lease deals, because each one of those I'm going to put in, those are going to be some buy and hold properties that are going to give me anywhere from $300 to $800 a month cash flow. And I'm going to hire management to help with that until I get to $5,000 a month. Some of them may be small multifamily deals. And so I work from that perspective. And then on the other hand, I want 50,000 cash now in 2022. And to me, cash now means you're only getting paid one time on the deal. So if you're wholesaling, that's cash now. If you're fixing and flipping, that's cash now. I'm a real estate broker. If I broker a deal, that's cash now, even if it takes 6 months, right? So that means if I want $50,000 in 2022, I've got to do a couple wholesale deals, I got to do a couple flips, and I got to do a couple brokerage deals. Mine is actually that cash. I want 120,000. I'm looking for 10,000 a month on that, you know, bringing in one-time cash now. But I've done that all my life, my 30 years. I've sold off my rentals. So now I'm back to figuring out how to build my rentals again. So I want you guys to figure that out, because then it tells you where to focus on, which stage of foreclosure, which type of deal structure. That's where you're going with it. That's what you got to figure out. So a lot of stuff that was end of year. It's, you know, this is what we do is we do end of year. Let's talk about what we did this year. Let's figure out what we're going to do next year. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. Those of you that missed the beginning, we did some really good conversation on the 3 stages of foreclosure. I'm excited to be here, guys. I'm gonna tell Stacy. I want you guys to tell Stacy. I want these to be interactive. I want you guys to be able to talk. I want to be able to see you guys, you know. So, but I know this is the type of Zoom platform that we have set up. I just like having the interaction so much more. Anyway, we're at the end of the hour. Any questions, comments that we can end with? Otherwise, I'm going to say Happy New Year's. Hope to see you guys. If you get those badges, if you get enough badges with REI USA, I've had 3 REI USA students join my 3-day boot camp for free. So my 3-day boot camp, the next one is in the very first weekend in April. So get your badges with REI USA. And if you don't know how to do that, I'm sure there's explanation somewhere. I do have a mentorship program. You know, I put in the beginning, get on my one-on-one and let's talk about it. I need you guys to come through UFF, which is Ultimate Foreclosure Formula. We'll talk about that. I make it, what I try to do is build partnerships. We like to do joint ventures. So a lot of what we do is we train you, and then we're there for you. We do everything. We get on the phone with you and the seller. We have a deal portal. So go to ultimateforeclosureformula.com. That's my website, and click on the investor sources, and you'll see the deal portal. You'll see the free one-on-one Zoom consultation. Let's start there, and then we'll move from there. But it's good stuff. I've got one student. He's been with me now probably almost a year and a half, and we're doing deals together, and he's on his 4th deal, and he's holding down a full-time job, and he's in Pennsylvania, and the deals we're doing are in Georgia. But it was all about training, and it's give and take. We spend time, he's in the coaching program. We spend time one-on-one quite often. So lots of good stuff, but love you guys, and hit me up on Facebook group with REI USA. Anything I can help you with, I will. So Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys around.